Greetings everyone, this is Dominic from the Comic Book Report YouTube channel over here doing another guest review for organicpricedbooks.com. And today I have the pleasure of giving an overview for the Starman Compendium Volume 1 from DC Comics. And this book is a big boy. A couple things about this book: the issues in this volume were written by James Robinson and illustrated primarily by Tony Harris and Wade Vaughn Grawbadger. The comics in this volume were first published by DC Comics beginning in 1994. The volume itself collects Starman issues 0 through 42, Starman Annual issue 1 and 2, Starman 80-page Giant issue 1, Starman Secret Files and Origins issue 1, and The Power of Shazam issues 35 and 36, along with stories from Showcase 95 issue 12 and Showcase 96 issues 4 and 5, and finally The Shade issues 1 through 4. This is a standard size paperback with glossy print paper stock, a glued binding, and a page count of a whopping 1,448 pages. As far as how this compendium is put together, the front cover has a cover that is lifted directly from one of the issues in the collection, which is always fun to see. The overall look of this book is a nice matte finish on the covers. It is, like I said, a giant paperback, so the spine here, unfortunately it's not hardcover, but the spine is, after being read one full time through. I lifted these pages open pretty good. I read it over a couple of weeks, and there's no creasing whatsoever in the spine. I had the same good luck in the Sweet Tooth compendium, so I don't know if DC's just making these compendiums pretty good. I don't know how they'll last against the test of time compared to a hardcover, so that's something to be advised about. But I will say, after one full reading, I think it still looks darn good. Across the back, I do really like to see the thumbnails of all the issues included, and like I said, this is pushing almost 50 issues, which is really, really impressive. It's a gigantic book. I do want to spend a moment to show all the prospective collectors out there what the binding of this looks like. Again, it is glued binding, so take it for what it is, but I think the gutter loss is fairly minimal given a volume this size. I think that the binding is pretty solid. I had no issues with it myself, but you'll see as I flip through the collection, and you can make your own determination of how you feel the binding is. Another note I'll say as we start to look into the collection proper here is that this is a volume 1 of a 2-volume set that includes the entire Starman run from the 90s here under Robinson, along with some of the Shade miniseries, which is really exciting to see. We have kind of all the stuff pertaining to this Starman included in these 2 volumes. At any rate, as we get into the collection proper, there are title pages, publication information, we have kind of a creator listing. There's no proper table of contents with like numbered pages or anything like that, but this is all mapped very, very well, and I do love that before each issue, we basically have a page that notes what issue it is collecting, followed by a page that's the cover of the issue, then we start the issue proper. I really like that because it's really easy to find your place, even though there's no page numbers or table of contents, because they have those kind of interstitial pages showing the issue and giving us that fully reproduced size cover. Love seeing that. I think that that's put together really well here. And anyway, we're off to the races with Starman issue 0, and basically this begins the story of Jack Knight for his solo series here. He is this generation's Starman. This is a 90s comic classic, and if you know nothing about this character or even the broader DC universe, that is just fine. This takes you in at the ground floor, and this is, for all intents and purposes, a really great standalone series. Perfect for beginners that this is of interest to. And essentially the main story for this is that Jack Knight, our titular hero here, Starman, is taking on the mantle of Starman from his father and kind of a couple other characters there. His father, Ted Knight, was the original Starman back in the golden age of comics over at DC. He's now a much older man, and after a personal family tragedy, Jack Knight kind of reluctantly takes on this moniker and this mantle. However, Jack Knight himself is kind of a punk rock kind of character. I don't know how else to say it. He's kind of a cool cat hipster sort of guy. He's into antiques and all this kind of nostalgia stuff. He even has a shop that sells these things. He's always kind of been off the beaten path a little bit. He has these edgy tattoos, and he's just off to the beat of his own drummer. A very cool, likable character who's never really fit in his really straight-laced, conventional kind of family, even when his dad was this larger-than-life superhero. So we do have him becoming Starman, but he does it in his own way. He rejects the kind of tights-looking superhero costume that his dad wore, and even his Star Rod, which is what Starman was known for, this item that lets him fly and shoot kind of beams and other different tactical things as Starman. He modifies it to be this big kind of combat stick. He also has kind of a like cool denim looking jacket with a star symbol on the back. He has a kind of fake policeman's badge that's a star on his front. He has night vision goggles, and that's kind of his costume. It's not kind of the normal kind of superhero like tights outfit. It's his own thing. He's kind of edgy, and he just has to be authentically himself, but he does take on the mantle, and he basically becomes the defender of his home city, Opal City. In the same way Batman has Gotham, Superman has Metropolis, Starman has Opal City. And like Gotham, there is kind of an Art Deco inspiration to a lot of the architecture and feel for this. It definitely feels like a city out of time. It feels better placed in that golden age of comics in the 40s or the 50s. And I really like the style that this whole city has. I think it adds so much to the richness of the narrative. And when you have a character that himself loves this kind of old time things with all of these antiques, stuff like that, when you have him taking the legacy and mantle of his father and that character, you can see already in so many layers of the storytelling that this book is effectively about legacy. It's about generationalism. It's about what it means to stand on your own but be a part of something bigger. I'm getting ahead of myself here, but essentially what I'm trying to communicate is that this is a very rich book. It's narratively very solid. And like on a literary kind of standpoint of this whole book, there is something to this storyline. If you're a fan of superhero comics but don't like stuff that feels a bit surface level or it's not something you can really dig your teeth into, this is something for you. This is a superhero narrative that has so much more going for it. We not only have these legacy DC characters in the form of Ted Knight, Starman, we also have so many other Justice Society of America characters show up throughout this volume. We even have characters from the All-Star Squadron show up, so it's so much a throwback to that golden age of comic books. We also have in the supporting cast the character of the Shade, who was a once kind of golden silver age villain for characters like the Flash. He has basically shadow powers, but in this series he's revealed to be this kind of immortal character who has this complete mastery over darkness, and you have this sense that he's lived a life so long that now the lines between good and evil are kind of blurred to him or kind of inconsequential, and he's fighting for the sight of right for no other reason than he really wants to protect his home city of Opal. And this character, along with the title hero Starman, really serve as the 1-2 punch that drive a lot of the narrative forward in this story. I really love this book as well because while it doesn't feel like there's one grand narrative unfolding across this book, we have a lot of dovetail stories and rich subplots that go from one story into the next so seamlessly that you're just along for the ride. We have great superhero adventures, we have aspects of science fiction, crime, detective fiction, and a kind of slice of life character drama. I think overall the characterizations in this book are really the selling point. You get so invested in all of the characters here, heroes and villains, supporting characters, and so much more. The sense of that city of Opal with, again, that Art Deco inspiration lead you to such a level of immersion that it's just really hard to come unglued from the page. And speaking of that artwork, the art from Tony Harris and Graw Badger and so many more in this book are really something to be commended. I think particularly the art of Tony Harris really stuck out to me. It just has this pop feel to it. There's really just explosions of color. The art is just really stylized, graphic, and interesting, and really served not only the period this was written in, but its title hero. There's something really edgy and cool to it that also somehow feel timeless and interesting. Overall, this is a really gripping book that is absolutely a page turner, at least in my mind. This whole thing has a sense of a coming-of-age story wrapped in a superhero narrative, and I really applaud it for that. I think that it really has a lot to say without being preachy or something that's too convoluted. I think that there's not a lot of storytelling in the superhero genre that tells stories like this, or at least in this way. Robinson has such a commanding sense of voice, and you really have the feeling that he knows exactly what he's trying to communicate, and he does it flawlessly in this series. Like I said, this is a 1 of 2 volume set, and this one doesn't really end on a cliffhanger. It just ends what I assume is about halfway through this run, and you're just left to finish the run later. I really liked what I saw here. I think one of the things I would have enjoyed was having more extras, especially with such a long celebrated series all the way back in the 90s. We don't have any extras in this collection. We have the last page of the last issue and then the back cover. I would have loved to see some character sketches, maybe some essays, some other covers if they had variant covers back then. I don't even know, but we're left really wanting it in that aspect. I will say all of the issues are well reproduced here, and that the compendium overall is made quite well. I would have loved to see an omnibus, but I think what we get is really rich and decent. Anyway, that's the Starman Compendium Volume 1. If you want a more full, detailed review, you can check my channel, The Comic Book Report. I'll definitely try to drop one of those sometime soon if I haven't already. And if you want to pick up your own copy, definitely pick yours up from organicpricedbooks.com. Thanks for watching, everyone, and until next time, have a good one.